Female sports involvement has skyrocketed over the past decade, and so has the evidence that certain athletic injuries can be very gender dependent. Dr. Julie Beret is an orthopedic surgeon with a specialty in sports medicine. She joins us to talk about women's sports injuries. Welcome, doctor. I admit I love talking to a woman about women's issues because you understand our bodies are built differently.
Absolutely. We are definitely not one and the same, and women and men experience injuries similarly, but there are some injuries that are more unique to women than men, and at different stages in our life that we might experience those.
Now, I think your background in sports and athletics and everything was very interesting, so tell us what made you want to go into sports orthopedics.
So I've always been interested in sports and athletics, and just really realized the importance of exercise and how important it is for your body to run efficiently and functionally. I grew up around athletics. My father was a football coach, one of the major schools here in Florida.
You could say who Bo Bethel like it.
So yeah, he was a coach at Florida State for 27 years, and so I grew up around the team physicians and athletic trainers, and just always was fascinated by that, fascinated at getting the players back on the field as quickly as possible, and so that's really what kind of drew my initial interest in sports medicine.
Well, and as we age, being injured unfortunately becomes more of a part of life. We are all noticing.
True.
If there is a common injury that seems to be the most prevalent among women, what would you say that it is? With younger women that I see that do athletics and sports, definitely see the more severe knee injuries like anterior cruciate ligament tear. We see that not infrequently with women soccer players, women cheerleaders. As we age, certainly the rotator cuff and shoulder becomes more prevalent. That's a little bit more equivalent between men and women.
You brought us an example of the knee. If you were to describe exactly what those injuries were you were just talking about, because this is a knee, what would it look like?
Sure. So, when sometimes women will land improperly, let's say they've done a jump and things like that, if you land improperly and just kind of the impact, there's one of your main ligaments in your knee is called the anterior cruciate ligament, and that can tear, and usually that requires surgery, especially in a young person.
And this could prevent you from moving, running, jumping kind of thing?
Right. So you don't have the stability that you need if you don't have a functioning ACL.
If the young person had that surgery, would they be back to their same athletic ability again?
That's the goal. So usually we can get that athlete back on the field. There is a long time period, as you see in the NFL and some of these more high-profile athletes. It does take around 6 months or so, sometimes up to a year to get back to their sport, but they can certainly get back.
And I see that this extra piece, could any of this be injured, or is usually
Absolutely.
the most?
So one of the Florida State football players just recently tore his patellar tendon in the opening game. So this is the patellar tendon, this is the kneecap, and there are other structures in the knee that are not uncommonly injured.
That's one of the most common injuries that I see is a patella tendonitis, soreness in that front of that knee from running, and so as a trainer I find it very interesting. I want to know what we can do to prevent those kinds of injuries.
Great question. So a lot of times these are overuse injuries, and we don't give ourselves enough time to rest in between the training activity, and then sometimes we train too hard a little differently, working on kind of getting the big bulk on the what we call the concentric activity, and we don't work enough on the negative contraction. And then also just making sure your flexibility is adequate and you don't overbalance the one side, getting overused.
Well, while I pray for Francois, we're going to actually talk about the shoulder.
Sure.
Tell me, you mentioned that could be another major portion of the body that gets impacted by injuries.
Right, and so one of the things I love about my job is being able to work on athletes of all ages. And I know in this population we have a very active older community, and a lot of pickleball injuries, golf injuries, tennis. Very commonly can you injure the shoulder. And the rotator cuff, it's one of the main components in the shoulder that helps to allow you to raise your arm, and and one of the reasons that I operate on rotator cuffs so frequently is because you just can't sleep at night. When your shoulder's killing you at night, not only do you have difficulty combing your hair, brushing your hair, playing your sports, that's actually something that we can efficiently operate on, arthroscopically and get better. Not always do they need surgery. A lot of times they can do therapy, and we can try non-operative treatment like injections and other things like that.
It seems like our bodies, to some level, just wear out a little bit as we get older
Right.
because we've used these,
Right.
you know, muscles and tendons so much. Are there sports that are gentler on our bodies than others so that we can focus on those as we age?
I think so. Yoga is an excellent activity as we age because it really works on flexibility and core strengthening and things like that. Golf is a great activity. Now, you don't always have to ride the 36 holes in the golf cart and drink the 12-pack. But, so walking for golf is very good. Tennis is a great activity. Walking, you know, on the beach for exercise is great. Low impact cycling is another great activity. So there are some.
All right, well, it's
fun
important
things
to stay
do.
active, and we know that, and we appreciate the fact that when things do happen, they can be fixed. So
Absolutely.
that's the
Wonderful
good
news.
thing. exists.
Happy to help with that.
All right, well, to talk more with Dr. Bray about women's sports injuries, you can find her on the Sarasota Orthopedics Associates website. And coming up next, speaking of athletics, Kelly is going to preview races and fun runs coming up here on the Suncoast.